"You're not welcome here anymore, Dad." Those words cut through Christmas dinner like a knife through silence. 23 people watching, my own son, my grandchildren staring with wide, confused eyes. I stood up slowly, my 68-year-old hands surprisingly steady, and smiled. "I understand completely, Connor." The room went quiet. Even the neighbors could see through their windows as I walked to my truck. What nobody knew was that I'd been recording everything for 6 months. What they really didn't know was that Connor had been living in my house this whole time. My name was still on every deed, every document, every piece of paper that mattered. I'm Maverick Robertson, and this is how I taught my son the most important lesson of his life. 48 hours later, the sheriff knocked on his door. But I wasn't broken. I was planning. Before I tell you exactly what happened, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of quiet justice. Margaret died on a Tuesday. Cancer took her piece by piece over 14 months, and I watched every painful second. Connor was 26 then, fresh out of college, full of dreams and empty pockets. The funeral cost $18,000. I paid it with money I'd saved for our retirement cruise. "Don't worry about money, son," I told Connor that gray October morning. "Focus on grieving your mother." I worked double shifts at the electrical company, weekdays running wire through office buildings, weekends fixing broken outlets for neighbors. My hands stayed busy so my mind wouldn't wander to that empty house. Connor moved back in temporarily. Temporarily became 2 years. I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, watched him heal while I learned to live without my Margaret's laugh echoing through those rooms. When Connor met Stephanie in 2019, I was happy for him. Real estate agent, college educated, pretty smile. They married that fall in a ceremony. I paid for $12,000 for their perfect day. My retirement fund got smaller, but my son was building his future. "You've given me everything, Dad," Connor said at the reception. "I'll never forget this." I made a promise to her dying breath. That promise was simple. Take care of our boy until he could take care of himself. I thought I'd kept that promise. I thought wrong. Spring 2000. Brought Connor and Stephanie to my kitchen table with real estate listings. They'd found their dream house on Maple Grove. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, perfect neighborhood for future grandchildren. Price tag $385,000. "We can't afford the down payment," Connor admitted. His hands fidgeted with his coffee cup. "The bank wants 20%. That's $77,000 we don't have." Stephanie leaned forward. "Connor mentioned you might consider helping with a loan." I looked at those young faces. Margaret would have wanted our son in a real home, not renting apartments forever. My pension had built up over 40 years of steady work. Margaret's life insurance still sat untouched in certificates of deposit. "I'll handle the whole down payment," I said. "Call it an early inheritance." Their faces lit up like Christmas morning. The closing happened 3 weeks later. My lawyer, Patricia Mills, sat across from us at the title company. She'd handled Margaret's estate, knew my financial situation better than anyone. "Maverick," she whispered during a break, "keep the deed in your name, initially for tax purposes. Transfer it later when their credit improves." I signed the papers. My name went on the deed as sole owner. Connor and Stephanie got the keys, thinking they owned their piece of the American dream. What Connor didn't know about that paperwork made all the difference 6 years later. The changes started subtle. Connor used to call twice a week just to check on his old man. After the wedding, those calls became monthly. Then holidays only. Stephanie's influence crept into our conversations like ivy, covering a fence. "Dad's just old school," Connor would say when I offered advice about their finances. "You wouldn't understand his generation, honey." Stephanie would smile. that perfect real estate agent smile. "Of course, Mr. Robertson, you've done so much already." But her eyes stayed cold as winter pond ice. "Christmas 2021. They invited me for dinner. I brought gifts for everyone. Stories from my electrical work, memories of Margaret's holiday traditions." Stephanie spent the meal checking her phone. Connor talked about mortgage rates and property values like I wasn't there. "Your father seems tired," Stephanie told Connor in the kitchen. I heard every word from the living room. Maybe he should consider downsizing. That big house must be hard to maintain at his age. Connor nodded along. "Yeah, Dad's not getting any younger." I kept quiet, kept listening, kept noticing how they talked around me instead of to me. Margaret always said the quietest people hear the most important conversations. She was right about that. She was right about most things. That's when I started paying closer attention. And what I started hearing made my blood run cold with disappointment. Best Buy on Marshall Avenue has everything an old electrician needs. I told the young clerk I wanted to record family stories for posterity, not entirely a lie. He showed me a digital voice recorder small enough to hide in a shirt pocket. "This model runs for 12 hours on one battery," he explained. "Crystal clear audio, even picks up whispers from across a room. $1.68, small price for peace of mind." I practiced at home first, sitting in Margaret's old chair, learning the buttons, testing the range. The device picked up conversations from the kitchen while I sat in the living room. Amazing what technology can do these days. My first real test came during Connor's visit that next Sunday. They stopped by to borrow my truck for moving furniture. Simple request, but something in Stephanie's tone made me suspicious. "Just be careful with the tailgate," I said, clipping the recorder to my belt. "It sticks sometimes." "We know how to handle a truck, Dad," Connor replied, sharp, impatient, different than the boy I raised. After they left, I played back the recording, clear as a bell, every word captured, even their whispered conversation in the driveway about getting the old man to sell this place. Eventually, I started documenting everything, every visit, every phone call, every casual conversation that revealed their true feelings about their burden of a father. November brought Thanksgiving preparations and careless words. Connor and Stephanie came over to use my larger oven for their turkey. I stayed busy in the garage, organizing tools, staying out of their way. The recorder sat in my shirt pocket, running silently. They thought I couldn't hear them in the kitchen. "Your father's house is worth at least $400,000 now," Stephanie said. Her real estate training showed. "Maybe more with the market surge." "He'll leave it to me eventually," Connor replied. "We just have to wait. Waiting is for people without options, honey." Stephanie's voice dropped lower. "I've been researching property transfers. There are ways to handle this sooner." "Silence then, Connor." "What kind of ways?" "Power of attorney forms, medical necessity claims. If we can show he's becoming incapacitated, we could petition for guardianship, transfer assets for his protection." My hands stopped moving on the toolbox. Cold crept up my spine like winter fog. "That seems wrong," Connor said. But his voice carried doubt, not conviction. "It's practical," Stephanie answered. "He's 70 soon. These things need proper planning. I know people at the courthouse. Forms can be prepared ahead of time." Recording number 7 changed everything. I understood then that my son's wife wasn't just impatient. She was calculating, and Connor was becoming her willing student in betrayal. Patricia Mills's law office smelled like leather books and strong coffee. I'd called Monday morning after that Thanksgiving recording, asked for an urgent consultation. Patricia had handled Margaret's affairs, understood family complexities. "Maverick, you look troubled," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her mahogany desk. "What can I do for you?" I played the Thanksgiving recording. Patricia's expression grew darker with each word. When Stephanie's voice mentioned guardianship fraud, Patricia's pen snapped in her grip. "This is elder abuse conspiracy," Patricia said. "The planning stage of financial exploitation, and it's all documented." She opened a thick file folder. "Fortunately, you made smart choices in 2020. The house deed remains in your name. Connor has no legal claim to your property." Relief flooded through me like warm sunshine after winter. "But they can still cause problems," Patricia continued. "False medical claims, forged documents, fraudulent power of attorney forms. We need more evidence, more recordings, a clear pattern of intent." Patricia handed me a business card for a private investigator. "If they poured your signature on anything, we'll have criminal fraud charges. Keep recording. Keep documenting. When they make their move, we'll be ready." Patricia's advice was crystal clear. Build the case methodically. Let them expose their intentions fully. Then strike with overwhelming evidence and legal authority. 6 months of systematic recording painted a picture I wished didn't exist. Every Sunday visit, every phone call, every casual conversation revealed layers of disrespect and calculation I'd never imagined from my own son. Recording 15, Connor complaining about wasting gas money visiting the old man every week. Recording 23, Stephanie coaching Connor on keeping Dad dependent so he doesn't make rash decisions about the house. Recording 31, Connor agreeing that Dad's getting forgetful, probably early dementia setting in. I wasn't forgetful. I was heartbroken. Each conversation got transcribed in a composition notebook Margaret had given me years ago. Dates, times, exact quotes. Patricia insisted on documentation beyond the audio files. "Juries like paperwork," she said. "Makes things feel official." Stephanie's real estate connections proved useful for their schemes. She brought deed transfer forms to 3 different Sunday dinners, just for Dad to review when he's ready. Always left them on my kitchen counter, always with helpful sticky notes showing where to sign. I never signed anything, but I kept every form. Evidence of intent to defraud. Connor's participation grew bolder each month. He started making comments about my driving, my memory, my ability to manage household finances. By Thanksgiving, I had everything I needed. 52 recordings, 16 attempted fraud documents, 1 composition notebook full of documented elder abuse. My son and his wife had built their own prison with words. December arrived with new indignities. Connor started making lists. Not suggestions, commands. "Dad, Stephanie made a list of things you can help with this week," Connor said, handing me a folded paper. "The gutters need cleaning, the driveway needs sealing, and the garage could use organizing." I read the list. 12 tasks, all physical labor, all at their house, the house I bought them. "These are big jobs for a 68-year-old man," I said carefully. "You're still strong as an ox," Connor replied. "Besides, you don't have anything else going on. Retired people need projects." Stephanie appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Mr. Robertson, we really appreciate you helping out. It saves us so much money on handyman services." The recording device in my pocket captured every word. I spent Tuesday cleaning their gutters, Wednesday sealing their driveway, Thursday organizing tools in their garage while they sat inside watching television. My back octite. My hands cramped from gripping unfamiliar tools. But I kept working, kept recording, kept building evidence. Their friends started noticing. Karen and Bill Mitchell lived next door, watched me working alone while Connor and Stephanie relaxed. "Shouldn't your son be helping?" Karen called over the fence. "Oh, Dad insists on doing everything himself," Stephanie answered from the porch. "He's very particular about how things get done." But the worst was yet to come, because serving as their unpaid handyman was just the beginning of their plan to make me feel worthless and dependent. Thanksgiving to 24 showcased my new status in the family hierarchy. Stephanie's parents flew in from Phoenix. Her college friends drove down from Minneapolis. 21 people gathered to watch me serve them like hired help. "Dad, could you get the turkey from the oven?" Connor called from the living room where football played on their 65-inch television. I pulled the 20-pound bird from the oven alone, carried it to their dining room table while they laughed at something on the screen. My arthritis screamed, but nobody noticed. "Maverick, would you mind carving?" Stephanie's mother asked sweetly. "You seem so capable in the kitchen." I carved turkey for 21 people, served plates, filled water glasses, cleared empty dishes, washed pots while they enjoyed coffee and dessert in the living room. Stephanie's college friend, Janet, watched me scrubbing their roasting pan. "Is that your father?" she whispered to Stephanie. "Yes, he loves helping out," Stephanie replied. "Keeps him busy now that he's retired. We worry he'd just sit around otherwise." More laughter from the television. More dishes appearing beside the sink. Connor found me at 1000 p.m. still cleaning their kitchen. "Thanks for all your help today, Dad. Really took the pressure off us with hosting." No offer to help. No acknowledgement of the 8 hours I'd spent serving his guests. Recording 43 captured their real thoughts. After I left, they discussed their success. Dad didn't complain once, Connor told Stephanie. He's finally accepting his place here. Bank statements tell stories when you know how to read them. December's credit card bills showed charges I hadn't made. Home Depot $437. Best Buy $862. Target $315. All purchases at stores near Connor and Stephanie's house. All on dates when I'd been working at their property. I called the credit card company's fraud department. The woman on the phone sounded bored until I mentioned elder abuse. "Sir, these charges were made with chip and PIN verification," she explained. "Someone would need physical access to your card and PIN number." My wallet sat on Connor's kitchen counter every day I worked there, right next to my jacket, right where anyone could photograph both sides of my cards. I drove to their house that afternoon with my recorder running. Knocked on the front door like always. "Dad," Connor seemed surprised. "We weren't expecting you today. Just wanted to check if you needed any help with weekend projects," I said. Stephanie appeared wearing a new winter coat. Designer brand. Expensive. Love that coat. I commented. Must have cost a fortune. "Oh, this old thing." Stephanie laughed. Connor surprised me. Said I deserved something nice after all my hard work lately. $862 at Best Buy. The exact amount charged to my card 3 days earlier. The paper trail told the whole story. Credit card fraud, identity theft, financial elder abuse. Every charge documented with dates, amounts, and locations that prove theft beyond any reasonable doubt. December 20th brought Connor's phone call. Formal, stilted, like calling a business acquaintance. "Dad, we'd like you to join us for Christmas dinner." Connor said, "Stephanie's family will be here, so dinner's at 3 sharp. Don't bring anything. We've got everything handled. What should I bring for the grandchildren?" I asked. "Nothing expensive. They have enough toys already." The conversation lasted 90 seconds. No warmth, no excitement about family gathering, just logistical information delivered with cold efficiency. I spent Christmas Eve wrapping presents for grandchildren I barely knew anymore. 8-year-old Emma, who used to sit on my lap while I read stories. 6-year-old Jake, who helped me feed birds in my backyard. Now they called me Grandfather Maverick, like I was a stranger in a suit. Christmas morning, I dressed carefully. Clean shirt, pressed pants, Margaret's favorite tie. The recording device sat in my jacket pocket, fully charged. Memory cleared for whatever conversations might unfold. I chose gifts thoughtfully. Art supplies for Emma, building blocks for Jake. Nothing expensive, following Connor's instructions, but items that might spark creativity and joy. The drive to their house took 12 minutes. 12 minutes to prepare for what I somehow knew would be my last Christmas with Connor's family. Their driveway was full of cars. Stephanie's parents' rental sedan, her brother's pickup truck, friends' vehicles lining the street. Christmas morning, I knew it would end badly because people planning betrayal always get careless around holidays. Always assume their victims won't fight back. Always underestimate quiet men with long memories. 23 cars lined Maple Grove Street. I parked 3 houses away, walked slowly up the driveway. I'd sealed myself in September. The recording device clicked on as I approached their front door. Connor answered before I knocked. "Hey, Dad. Come on in." No hug, no Merry Christmas, just neutral acknowledgement like I was delivering groceries. Their living room buzzed with conversations I wasn't included in. Stephanie's parents held court near the fireplace, sharing stories about their Arizona retirement community. Her college friends clustered around the kitchen island, wine glasses in hand, discussing property markets and investment opportunities. Emma and Jake sat in the corner, already surrounded by open presents. Mountains of expensive toys, electronic games, designer clothes. My carefully chosen art supplies looked shabby beside their abundance. Grandfather Maverick, Emma called politely. "Thank you for the presents." No excitement, no running to hug me like she used to, just polite acknowledgement, coached by parents who trained her to maintain distance. Stephanie appeared wearing another new outfit. Cashmere sweater, did my Niner jeans, jewelry that caught the Christmas lights. "Mr. Robertson, so glad you could make it. The kitchen could use some attention if you don't mind helping out." Not a request, an assignment. I found their sink full of breakfast dishes, preparation bowls, serving platters waiting to be washed. 23 people's worth of Christmas morning cleanup. No one else in the kitchen. No offers to help. Just me and the dirty dishes while their families celebrated in the next room. The recorder was already running. 2 hours of dishes. Pots from Christmas morning breakfast. Serving bowls from appetizers. Wine glasses from pre-dinner cocktails. My hands crooned in hot dish water while laughter echoed from their living room. "Maverick, such a blessing," Stephanie's mother announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "So helpful in the kitchen. You're lucky to have such a dedicated father, Connor." "Yeah, Dad likes staying busy," Connor replied. "Retirement can be boring otherwise." Their conversation continued without me. Investment strategies, vacation plans, real estate market predictions, topics I understood but wasn't invited to discuss. Emma appeared beside the sink around 4 o'clock. "Grandfather Maverick, are you coming to open presents?" "As soon as these dishes are finished, sweetheart," I said, scrubbing their roasting pan. "Mommy said you like washing dishes because you're used to being alone," Emma said innocently. My hands stopped moving. Used to being alone, like isolation was my natural preference instead of their systematic exclusion. "Go play with your new toys," I said gently. "I'll be there soon." But I wouldn't be there soon. More dishes appeared constantly. More wine glasses, more appetizer plates, an endless stream of cleanup that kept me separated from family conversations. Stephanie checked on my progress periodically. "You're doing great, Mr. Robertson. Really appreciate you taking care of the kitchen work." Taking care of the kitchen work, not helping with dishes, not contributing to family gathering, just handling the manual labor nobody else wanted. Then I heard my name from the dining room. Stephanie's voice carried clearly from the dining room. Wine had loosened tongues, made them careless about volume. "Connor's father is becoming such a burden," she said. "He shows up every Sunday, expecting attention like we don't have our own lives to live." Elderly parents can be challenging, her college friend Janet replied. My mother went through a clingy phase before we found her a nice assisted living place. That's exactly what Connor and I have been discussing, Stephanie continued. There are some beautiful senior communities in the area, much more appropriate for someone his age. Connor's voice joined the conversation. Dad gets confused about boundaries sometimes. Thinks he can just drop by whenever he wants. We've talked about setting firmer limits. My hands gripped the dish towel tighter. Confused about boundaries. Like visiting my son once a week was inappropriate behavior. The house situation complicates things. Stephanie added, he's living in that big place all alone, not really capable of maintaining it properly. We're concerned about his safety. Could you convince him to sell? Janet asked. We're working on it, Connor said. Stephanie's been handling some of the paperwork to make transitions easier when the time comes. Paperwork? The deed transfer form she'd been leaving on my counter for months. Recording 52 would be the last one needed because I just heard them confess to conspiracy, elder abuse planning, and intent to commit fraud. All captured in crystal clear digital audio while they thought I was safely isolated in their kitchen. 5:30 brought the moment I'd been dreading and expecting. Connor appeared in the kitchen doorway, his face set with determination that looked rehearsed. Dad, we need to talk, Connor said. I dried my hands slowly, followed him to the living room where 23 people sat in uncomfortable silence. Stephanie's family, Connor's friends, my grandchildren, watching with wide, confused eyes. Dad, Connor began, his voice carrying across the room. We've been discussing some changes that need to happen. Everyone stared. Fork clattered against someone's plate. Wine glass clinketed as it hit a table. You're not welcome here anymore, Connor continued. Stephanie and I have decided we need space from your constant visits and demands for attention. The words hit like physical blows. Not welcome. In the house, I'd bought them at Christmas dinner with my grandchildren, after 8 hours of washing their dishes and serving their guests. I understand completely, son, I heard myself say. My voice stayed steady somehow, calm, almost grateful. Connor looked surprised by my response. Stephanie smiled that real estate agent smile, satisfied with her successful manipulation. You'll always be welcome to call before visiting, Stephanie added. We just need better boundaries going forward. Jake started crying quietly. Emma stared at her hands. The other guests studied their plates, uncomfortable with the public family drama. I walked through their dining room, past their Christmas tree toward their front door. 23 people watched me leave in silence. As I walked to my truck, the December air bit at my cheeks as I walked down their driveway. Behind me, their house glowed with Christmas lights I'd helped hang in November. Warm yellow windows showed silhouettes of family I was no longer welcome to join. Karen Mitchell stood at her mailbox, pretending to check for late deliveries. Her neighbor's radar had picked up the tension from inside Connor's house. Everything all right, Maverick? She called softly. Everything's perfect, Karen, I replied, surprising myself with how true that felt. Better than perfect, actually. My truck started easily despite the cold. The heater began warming my hands as I pulled away from Maple Grove Street. In my rear view mirror, Connor's house grew smaller until the Christmas lights became just another neighborhood decoration. The recording device in my pocket had captured everything. Every cruel word, every calculated dismissal, every public humiliation witnessed by 23 people who now knew exactly what kind of man my son had become. I drove home slowly, Christmas music playing on the radio, my heart lighter than it had been in months. Margaret's picture smiled at me from the dashboard where I'd kept it since her funeral. You would have been proud of how I handled that, I told her picture. No shouting, no seeing, just quiet dignity while they destroyed themselves with their own words. What they didn't know was, Monday would change everything because quiet men who work with electricity understand power. How it builds slowly, how it travels through unexpected circuits, and how it delivers exactly the voltage needed when the switch finally gets thrown. Sunday night found me at Margaret's old kitchen table with 6 months of evidence spread like a road map to justice. 52 audio files transferred to my laptop, each recording labeled with date, time, and summary of contents. The composition notebook opened to pages of transcribed conversations. Recording 1 through 15, gradual pattern of disrespect and dismissal. Recording 16 through 30, Stephanie's coaching Connor on manipulation tactics. Recording 3145, financial fraud, planning and execution. Recording 46 through 52, elder abuse, conspiracy, and property theft schemes. The timeline painted a picture more damning than I'd imagined. This wasn't sudden greed or momentary weakness. This was systematic, calculated elder abuse that had been building for months. Patricia's business card sat beside the laptop. I'd called her emergency number from the truck, left a voicemail requesting Monday morning consultation. Elder law attorneys understand urgency when family betrayal reaches crescendo. The credit card statements form their own pile of evidence. $12,000 in unauthorized charges over 6 months. Each fraudulent purchase documented with location data that placed Stephanie near the stores during every transaction. Connor's signature appeared on 3 deed transfer forms. Forged. I'd never signed any documents transferring property ownership, but someone had practiced my signature until the forgeries looked convincing. Margaret's jewelry box sat open beside the legal documents. Inside, her engagement ring caught the kitchen light. The ring I'd saved 3 months to buy in 1976. The ring Connor and Stephanie didn't know existed because I'd never mentioned my emergency savings account. The bank statements for that account showed a balance that would shock them. $87,000. Margaret's life insurance money untouched for 6 years, earning steady interest while I lived modestly on my pension. Patricia had prepared me for this moment, as she'd warned me that family fraud cases require overwhelming evidence to overcome emotional bias. Juries want to believe families love each other. Judges hesitate to destroy relationships over money. But evidence doesn't lie, and I had evidence enough to fill a courtroom. Patricia Mills arrived at her law office at 7 Monday morning. I was waiting in the parking lot, box of evidence on my passenger seat, determination replacing the heartbreak I'd carried home from Christmas dinner. "Maverick," she said, unlocking her office door. "Your voicemail sounded urgent." "It is," I replied, following her inside. "They made their move yesterday. All of it recorded." Patricia's office felt like a sanctuary after 36 hours of emotional turmoil. Leather chairs, law books, photographs of successful cases lining her walls, places where justice lived and breathed and won. I played recording 52 first. Stephanie's voice discussing paperwork transitions and Connor agreeing to firmer boundaries. Then recording 51, their Christmas Eve phone conversation about limiting my access to grandchildren. Patricia's face grew darker with each playback. "This is textbook elder abuse conspiracy," she said, taking notes in her legal pad. "Financial exploitation, emotional manipulation, social isolation, and it's all documented." She reviewed the forged deed transfer forms with magnifying glass precision. "These signatures are fraudulent. I can have handwriting experts confirm it, but they're obviously not your writing." The credit card fraud evidence made her whistle low. $12,000 over 6 months. That's felony theft in this state. Combined with the forgery attempts, we're looking at serious criminal charges. Patricia opened her phone, started dialing numbers. "I'm calling the district attorney's office first. They need to open criminal investigation immediately. Then we'll file civil eviction proceedings." "Eviction?" I asked. "You own the house, Maverick. They're tenants without lease agreement living on your property. We can have them removed legally within 72 hours if they refuse to leave voluntarily. She handed me paperwork to sign, power of attorney for legal proceedings, authorization for criminal complaint, permission to contact law enforcement. Monday morning, the wheels of justice started turning. And once those wheels begin moving, they don't stop until every legal remedy has been exhausted and every consequence has been delivered. Tuesday morning brought one last chance for redemption. I called Connor's house at 8 a.m., the recording device capturing what I hoped might be an apology, an explanation, maybe even recognition of how badly they'd treated their family patriarch. Connor answered on the third ring. "Dad, what do you want?" "I wanted to talk about yesterday," I said carefully. "See if we could work things out before things go too far." "There's nothing to work out," Connor replied. "We told you how things need to be. You have to respect our boundaries." Stephanie's voice came clearly through the phone. She was on speaker, treating this conversation like a business negotiation. "Mr. Robertson," she said, "Connor and I have discussed this thoroughly. Your behavior yesterday showed exactly why we need distance. You couldn't even follow simple instructions about staying in the kitchen." "I washed dishes for 8 hours," I said. "And we appreciated that," Stephanie continued. "But you kept trying to insert yourself into conversations that didn't concern you. We have our own lives, our own friends, our own interests." Connor's voice rejoined the call. "Dad, you need to accept that things have changed. We're not responsible for entertaining you every weekend." "I understand," I said softly. "And I want you to know that I love you both. If you change your minds, if you want to try rebuilding our relationship with mutual respect, my door is always open." Stephanie laughed. Axel laughed. "The senile old fool still doesn't get it," she said to Connor, apparently forgetting I could hear every word. "He thinks this is negotiable." "Dad," Connor said, "lose our number. Find some friends your own age. Stop trying to force yourself into our family time." The line went dead. That sealed their fate permanently. Because I'd offered them mercy, genuine forgiveness, a chance to apologize and rebuild, and they'd responded with mockery, cruelty, and dismissal of the man who'd given them everything. Some bridges burned themselves. This one just needed a match. The courthouse steps felt solid under my feet. Wednesday morning, Patricia carried a briefcase thick with evidence. I carried the dignity my son and his wife had tried to steal. "Criminal fraud charges first," Patricia explained as we climbed toward the district attorney's office. "Then civil eviction proceedings, then asset recovery litigation." District Attorney Rachel Torres reviewed our evidence with prosecutor's eyes, sharp, calculating, looking for weaknesses defense attorneys might exploit. 52 recordings, she said, scrolling through digital files. All consensual single-party recordings admissible in court. The forged signature analysis took 15 minutes with their computer system. Clearly fraudulent, Torres confirmed different pressure patterns, inconsistent letter formation, obvious forgery attempts. Credit card fraud evidence made her nod with satisfaction. Felony theft, identity fraud, elder abuse with intent to defraud. "We can file charges today." She handed Patricia official documents. "Arrest warrants will be issued this afternoon. Sheriff's Department will coordinate service with eviction proceedings." Patricia opened her second folder. Eviction paperwork ready for immediate filing. Property ownership is clear. No lease agreement exists. Fraudulent occupancy can be terminated with 24-hour notice. The clerk's stamp hit papers with satisfying authority. Official seals pressed into documents. Case numbers assigned to legal proceedings that would change Connor and Stephanie's lives forever. 48 hours from now, Patricia said as we left the courthouse, they'll be out of your house and facing criminal charges. What if they refuse to leave? I asked. Sheriff's deputies with moving trucks, Patricia replied. Non-negotiable eviction with law enforcement escort. Walking back to my truck, I felt Margaret's presence like warm sunshine. She would have hated the necessity of this justice, but she would have supported the boundary I was finally drawing. 48 hours was all it would take to prove that quiet dignity backed by legal authority could defeat manipulation, fraud, and disrespect with overwhelming precision. Deputy Sheriff Reynolds looked exactly like Central Casting's idea of rural law enforcement. 6'2" tall, gray mustache, 20 years of dealing with family disputes etched in laugh lines around serious eyes. Elder abuse cases get priority attention in this county, he explained, reviewing Patricia's paperwork in his office. We've seen too many families destroy themselves over money and property. The evidence impressed him. 52 recordings over 6 months shows premeditation. These aren't heat-of-the-moment mistakes. This is calculated fraud. Reynolds opened a timeline on his computer. We'll coordinate eviction service with arrest warrants. Thursday morning, 900 a.m. sharp. Give them maximum shock value, minimum time to destroy evidence. What if they resist? Patricia asked. They won't, Reynolds said confidently. Property deed is clear. You own the house. They're trespassing. Simple as that. Add criminal fraud charges, and they'll want to cooperate with law enforcement. He handed me an official document. Temporary restraining order preventing them from accessing your financial accounts, credit cards, or property. Effective immediately. The restraining order felt heavy in my hands. Legal protection I should never have needed from my own son. We'll have moving trucks standing by, Reynolds continued. Professional crew, storage facility arranged, personal property secured. They get their belongings, nothing else. Patricia reviewed the timeline. 24 hours to vacate after service. Criminal charges filed simultaneously. Asset freeze in effect. What about the grandchildren? I asked. Child Protection Services will be notified, Reynolds said gently. Not because they're bad parents, but because financial crimes can disrupt family stability. Better to have support systems in place. Tuesday morning would bring surprises. That phrase kept echoing in my mind as we finalized details. Surprises for people who thought they had successfully manipulated a lonely old man into accepting disrespect and theft. Sometimes surprises come with badges, warrants, and moving trucks. First National Bank's fraud department moved with impressive efficiency. Wednesday afternoon, Regional Manager Sarah Chun met me in her private office. Patricia's legal documents spread across her mahogany desk. $12,000 in unauthorized charges over 6 months, Sarah confirmed, reviewing credit card statements. Clear pattern of identity theft and elder financial abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. Transaction locations matched Stephanie's shopping patterns. Purchase dates aligned with my visits to their house. Chip and PIN verification proved physical card access. We're reversing all fraudulent charges immediately, Sarah said, fingers flying across her computer keyboard. Full restitution to your accounts within 24 hours. She pulled up Connor and Stephanie's joint checking account. As property owners, they banked here too. Account shows unusual recent activity, large cash withdrawals, closed savings accounts, asset liquidation. Patricia leaned forward. They're preparing to run. Not anymore, Sarah replied. Asset freeze goes into effect immediately. All accounts locked pending criminal investigation. They can't access funds, transfer money, or close accounts. The restraining order gave bank legal authority to prevent further theft. Account monitoring would alert police to any attempted transactions. Sarah handed me new credit cards. Emergency replacements with different numbers. Your old cards are permanently canceled. New PIN numbers, enhanced security features. What happens to their mortgage payments? I asked. That becomes your decision, Sarah said. You own the property. You can assume the mortgage, pay it off, or let foreclosure proceedings begin. Patricia made notes in her legal pad. We'll discuss options after eviction. First priority is removing them from your property. They would discover their cards declined when they tried to buy lunch Thursday morning. When Stephanie attempted shopping for stress relief, when Connor needed gas for what they probably hoped would be an escape trip, financial isolation feels just as devastating as social isolation. Now they would understand both. Allied Moving Services specialized in court-ordered relocations. Manager Tom Bradley had handled hundreds of eviction situations, understood the delicate balance between legal authority and human dignity. Sheriff's escort, 24-hour notice, personal property only, Tom confirmed, reviewing our service order. Standard protocol for fraud-related evictions. 3 professional movers, 2 trucks, 1 storage unit rented for 6 months. Connor and Stephanie's belongings would be carefully packed, respectfully handled, securely stored. What if they refused to cooperate? I asked. Law enforcement handles resistance, Tom replied. We focus on protecting personal property. Everyone deserves their belongings, regardless of legal circumstances. The storage facility sat across town from Connor and Stephanie's social circle. Anonymous location, basic security, monthly rental they could afford on reduced income. Tom handed me facility paperwork, rental agreement in your name. Initially, they can transfer ownership when they provide legitimate contact information. Patricia reviewed the timeline. Moving crew arrives Thursday at 10 a.m. Sheriff serves papers at 9 o'clock. 1 hour for shock to settle. Then systematic packing begins. How long for complete relocation? I asked. Full household 4 to 6 hours, Tom said. We're efficient, but thorough. Don't want belongings damaged because of rush timeline. The storage unit key felt strange in my palm. Symbol of my son's reduced circumstances, consequence of choices he'd made. They'll need this address for mail forwarding, Tom continued. Basic courtesy, even in difficult situations. Margaret would have approved of the dignity we were preserving. Despite everything Connor and Stephanie had done, they would receive fair treatment, professional service, respectful handling of their personal effects. Everything was perfectly timed. Thursday morning would bring justice with human compassion, legal consequences with procedural dignity, boundaries enforced with minimum necessary force, perfect coordination between multiple agencies, all focused on the same goal, ending elder abuse with maximum effectiveness and minimum cruelty. Wednesday evening brought one final conversation. I called Connor's house at 7 p.m. recording device, capturing what I hoped might be last-minute wisdom. Unexpected recognition of impending consequences. Connor answered impatiently. Dad, what now? I thought we were clear about boundaries. I wanted to give you 24 hours notice, I said carefully. There are some legal matters we need to discuss tomorrow morning. Stephanie's voice joined the conversation. Legal matters? What are you talking about? The forged documents, Stephanie. The unauthorized credit card charges. The elder abuse planning I've been recording for 6 months. Silence, then nervous laughter. Dad, you're being paranoid. Connor said, Nobody's abused you. We just needed some space. I have 52 recordings, I continued. Every conversation about guardianship fraud, property theft, financial exploitation, every cruel comment about the senile old fool who doesn't understand boundaries. More silence, whispered conversation with hands over phone receiver. Stephanie came back on the line, her real estate agent voice replaced by something sharper. You can't use recordings without permission. That's illegal. Single-party consent state, I replied. Perfectly legal when one participant knows about recording. I checked with my attorney. Connor's voice cracked slightly. Your attorney? Patricia Mills, elder law specialist, very experienced with family fraud cases. We've been building criminal charges against you both. You're bluffing, Stephanie said, but her confidence was gone. You're just an angry old man making threats. Thursday morning, 9 a.m., I said quietly. Sheriff's deputies will be serving papers. You'll want to answer the door promptly. The line went quiet for 30 seconds. Dad, Connor said finally, maybe we can work something out. Maybe we overreacted on Christmas. Too late for that, son. Way too late. Tuesday morning arrived with Sheriff. Badges, because some lessons can only be taught through consequences, and some relationships can only be healed through justice. Thursday morning, December 28th, 9 a.m. sharp. 3 patrol cars pulled into Connor and Stephanie's driveway with the quiet authority that announces serious legal business. I sat in my truck across the street, watching Deputy Reynolds walk up the sidewalk I'd repaired last summer. Behind him, 2 younger officers carried briefcases thick with warrants and legal documents. Karen Mitchell appeared at her window, neighborhood radar fully activated. Bill Thompson slowed his morning jog to observe the proceedings. Court-ordered justice always draws witnesses. Connor answered the door in pajamas and confusion. Even from across the street, I could see his face go pale as Deputy Reynolds displayed his badge and began reading from official papers. Connor Robertson and Stephanie Robertson, we have warrants for your arrest on charges of elder financial abuse, identity theft, and attempted fraud. Stephanie appeared beside Connor, her hair uncombed, her voice carrying clearly across the quiet neighborhood. This is impossible. We haven't done anything illegal. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent, Deputy Reynolds continued, his voice professional but firm. You also have eviction papers requiring you to vacate these premises within 24 hours. Vacate? Connor stammered. This is our house. Sir, property records show Maverick Robertson as sole legal owner. You're being evicted for non-payment of rent and fraudulent occupancy. Neighbors emerge from houses now. Mrs. Chun from next door. The Johnson family from across the street. Even old Mr. Peterson, who rarely left his porch, stood watching the Robertson family drama unfold. Connor's eyes found my truck across the street. Our gazes met through windshield glass. I saw recognition, understanding, the moment when he realized his father wasn't the helpless old man he'd been manipulating. But that wasn't the biggest shock, because handcuffs were coming out and reading rights was just beginning. Stephanie Robertson, you're under arrest for identity theft, elder financial abuse, and attempted fraud. Deputy Reynolds' voice carried the weight of 6 months' investigation. You have the right to remain silent. Stephanie's composure cracked like thin ice. This is insane. That old man is lying. He gave us permission for everything. Ma'am, we have recordings, Deputy Reynolds replied, producing a digital device. 52 separate instances of conspiracy to commit elder abuse. The handcuffs clicked around Stephanie's wrists with metallic finality. Her designer pajamas and unsed hair made her look smaller, more vulnerable than the confident manipulator who'd been coaching my son for months. Connor stood frozen in the doorway, watching his wife get arrested while neighbors documented everything with cell phone cameras. Connor Robertson, the second deputy, announced, You're under arrest as accessory to elder financial abuse and conspiracy to commit fraud. I didn't know, Connor said desperately. I never signed anything. Stephanie handled all the paperwork. Sir, we have recordings of you participating in planning sessions, the deputy replied. You agreed to guardianship fraud schemes and property theft conspiracies. More handcuffs, more reading of rights. My son and his wife standing on their front porch in restraints while the neighborhood watched justice being served. Emma appeared. At the upstairs window, her 8-year-old face confused by the scene below. Jake stood beside her, both children watching their parents getting arrested on a quiet Thursday morning. Child Protective Services would coordinate temporary custody with Stephanie's parents. The children would be protected while their parents faced legal consequences. $12,000 in unauthorized charges, Deputy Reynolds announced for the gathered neighbors. Identity theft with intent to defraud an elderly victim. The moving trucks arrived on schedule. Professional crews ready to pack up a fraudulent life built on stolen money and forged documents. Allied Moving Services arrived like clockwork at 10 a.m. 3 professional movers with dollies, boxes, and systematic efficiency. Tom Bradley supervised, while Connor and Stephanie sat in separate patrol cars, watching their lives get packed up. I approached the house I'd purchased in 2020 with my retirement savings, the house my son thought he owned, the house that had always been mine, according to legal documents he'd never bothered to read. Mr. Robertson, Tom said, will inventory everything carefully. Personal belongings only, nothing that came with the house. But Deputy Reynolds handed me new house keys. Locks were changed this morning. Previous occupants no longer have access. I walked through rooms I'd helped furnish, hallways I'd helped. Paint a kitchen where I'd washed hundreds of dishes as unpaid help. Now it was quiet, empty of the conversations that had excluded me, the laughter that had mocked me, the planning sessions that had betrayed me. The movers worked with respectful efficiency. Connor's clothes, Stephanie's jewelry, children's toys. And furniture, wedding photos that showed happier times when I believed my son loved me. Storage unit address, Tom said, handing Connor a business card through the patrol car window. Unit paid for 6 months. After that, you'll need to make arrangements. Connor's face was unrecognizable. The confident financial advisor who dismissed. His father as a burden now looked confused, defeated, broken. Stephanie sat in the other patrol car, no longer the manipulative real estate agent who'd coached systematic elder abuse. Just a woman in handcuffs, watching her carefully constructed fraud collapse. By 3:00 p.m., the house was empty except for my footsteps echoing through rooms that would never again host my humiliation. Maverick had one more surprise, because this wasn't just about justice. This was about rebuilding a life of dignity after 6 years of manipulation. 2 months later, February's courtroom felt like the inside of justice itself. Wood paneling, American flag, judge's bench elevated above the proceedings, like moral authority made manifest. Judge Catherine Morrison had 30 years' experience with family fraud cases. She'd seen every variation of elder abuse, every excuse for financial exploitation, every family destroyed by greed disguised as concern. The court has reviewed extensive evidence. Judge Morrison announced 52 digital recordings, documented credit card fraud, attempted property theft through forged documents. Connor and Stephanie sat at the defendant's table with their court-appointed attorneys, public defenders who'd reviewed the evidence and advised immediate plea bargaining. Stephanie Robertson, you're sentenced to 18 months in state prison, suspended to 6 months with 2 years probation, full restitution of stolen funds, community service, and permanent prohibition from real estate licensing. Stephanie's face went white. Her real estate career was over. Her professional reputation destroyed. Her community standing demolished. Connor Robertson as accessory to elder abuse. You're sentenced to 1 year probation, community service, and mandatory elder abuse awareness counseling. My son looked across the courtroom at me for the first time in months. I saw regret, maybe even recognition of the man he'd become under his wife's influence. The judge's gavel hit the bench with finality. This court takes elder abuse seriously. Family relationships don't excuse criminal behavior. Love doesn't justify theft. Care doesn't permit manipulation. Patricia Mills smiled beside me. Complete victory, she whispered. Criminal conviction, asset recovery, legal vindication. Outside the courthouse, fresh February air, carried the scent of justice served and dignity restored. The judge's sentencing was decisive, and my son had learned the most expensive lesson of his life. Respect isn't inherited through bloodlines. It's earned through character. The State Real Estate Commission moved swiftly once criminal convictions became public record. Stephanie's license revocation hearing lasted 30 minutes. Open and shut case of professional misconduct. License revoked permanently. Commissioner Walsh announced fraudulent document preparation, identity theft, elder abuse conspiracy, behavior incompatible with real estate professional standards. Connor's financial advisory firm handled his termination more quietly. No hearing, no public statement, just a brief email explaining his resignation for personal reasons and immediate removal from client accounts. Professional reputations die hard and fast when criminal fraud makes headlines. Neither Connor nor Stephanie would work in financial services again. Background checks would flag their convictions for years to come. Their social circle learned the truth through courthouse reporting and neighborhood gossip. Stephanie's college friends who'd watched me wash dishes at Christmas now understood why. Connor's professional contacts who'd heard him mock his senile father now knew the real story. Karen Mitchell stopped by my house with apologies and cookies. "We should have said something sooner," she admitted. "We could see how they treated you." "You weren't responsible for my family's choices," I replied. "But thank you for caring." Other neighbors followed with similar visits. Support I hadn't realized existed. Community recognition that elder abuse had been happening right next door. The local newspaper ran a feature story about elder fraud awareness. My case became educational example without using real names. Teaching moment about family manipulation and legal protection for vulnerable adults. Patricia Mills used our victory in her elder law presentations. Anonymous case studies showing how evidence collection and legal preparation could defeat even sophisticated fraud schemes. Their social circle learned the truth about what really happens when families prioritize money over love, convenience over respect, manipulation over honest relationships. The neighborhood rallied with unexpected warmth. People I'd barely known for years suddenly appeared with dinner invitations, offers to help with yard work, genuine concern for my well-being. "We always wondered about those Sunday visits," admitted Mrs. Chun from next door. "You look so tired afterwards, but we didn't want to interfere with family business." B. Thompson stopped his morning jog to check on me. "Should have trusted our instincts," he said. "Family doesn't make someone wash dishes for 8 hours while everyone else relaxes." Even young families reached out. The Hendersons with twin toddlers offered snow removal services. The Martinez family invited me for their Sunday barbecues. Genuine inclusion, replacing the forced obligations I'd endured at Connor's house. My church, St. Mark's Lutheran, embraced me like the family I'd lost. Pastor Williams asked me to share my story during Elder Protection Sunday. Anonymous testimony helping other families recognize manipulation warning signs. Elder abuse hides in plain sight. I told the congregation, "It looks like helpful adult children managing aging parents. It sounds like concern for safety and financial security. It feels like love until you recognize the pattern." The response overwhelmed me. Handshakes, hugs, invitations to coffee, people sharing their own stories of family dysfunction and boundary struggles. Margaret would have loved this community support. She always said, "Churches were families you choose instead of families you're born into." The Senior Center recruited me for their legal advocacy program. My experience with evidence collection and legal preparation could help other vulnerable adults protect themselves. But Maverick had one final message for anyone listening who might be facing similar family manipulation, financial exploitation, or systematic disrespect disguised as caregiving concern. June brought the sale of Connor's former house. Young family with twin daughters, fresh hope, genuine appreciation for the neighborhood. They reminded me of Margaret and myself 40 years ago. I moved into Heritage Grove Senior Community. Not assisted living, just independent housing for people who preferred neighbors their own age. Coffee every morning in the community room. Book club Tuesday evenings. Volunteer work with elder abuse prevention programs. Real friendship replaced forced family obligations. People who chose my company instead of demanding my service. Conversations that included me instead of talking around me. The quiet apartment felt peaceful, not lonely. Room for Margaret's memory without echoes of humiliation. One letter arrived in Connor's mail, forwarding, handwritten on Margaret's stationery, sealed in an envelope that carried no anger. Connor, respect is earned daily. Choose wisely who you become, Dad. 2 sentences. Nothing more needed saying. The door remained open for genuine change. Authentic apology. Relationship rebuilt on mutual dignity rather than manipulation. No response came. Maybe Connor wasn't ready. Maybe Stephanie's influence still controlled his choices. Maybe some damage takes years to heal. But the letter existed. Proof that love survives betrayal. That fathers forgive even when they can't forget. That redemption waits for anyone willing to choose character over convenience. If you're listening to this story, if you recognize yourself in my situation, if someone you love is treating you like burden instead of blessing, remember quiet dignity isn't weakness. Document everything. Record conversations. Save evidence. Consult attorneys. Trust your instincts when family behavior feels wrong. Elder abuse succeeds through isolation, confusion, and shame. Break the silence. Seek help. Demand respect. You deserve better than being someone's unpaid servant. You deserve inclusion in conversations, not exile to kitchens. You deserve gratitude for sacrifices, not mockery for generosity. Quiet dignity isn't weakness. It's preparation for the moment when justice becomes necessary. And sometimes justice arrives with sheriff's badges, moving trucks, and the satisfaction of teaching one final lesson to people who forgot where they came from. Subscribe to Astral Vengeance.